Jack the Ripper, arguably the greatest unsolved mystery of all time. Who was this man? I'm going to be taking a look at the theories behind who Jack the Ripper was, but first, to tell us the story of Jack the Ripper, it is my pleasure to introduce onto the channel Simon from Into the Darkness.
Over the centuries, the magnificent city of London has produced some of this country's greatest ever stories. But one story that has been turned into a tourist attraction is the story of the Whitechapel murderer. Who was the Whitechapel murderer? Well, we don't know. He or she has never ever been identified. What we do know is Jack the Ripper, as we now know him, caused terrific upset in Whitechapel in 1888. Many historians believe that he was indeed guilty of the murder of 5 prostitutes, but many people believe that there were more, in the form of Emma Smith, who was terribly mutilated and died in hospital. Martha Tabron, who died on the 7th of August 1888. The body of Martha Tabron was discovered at 5 a.m. on the first floor landing of George Yard buildings. There is much debate over whether she was in fact the first victim of Jack the Ripper. However, the first recorded victim was called Mary Nichols, murdered August the 31st, 1888. The body of Mary Nichols was found at around 3:40 a.m. in a gateway in Bucks Row, Whitechapel. She is generally believed to have been the first of Jack the Ripper's so-called 5 victims. Our next victim was called Annie Chapman. She was murdered on the 8th of September, 1888. The body of Annie Chapman, the second definite Jack the Ripper victim, was found in the backyard of number 29 Hanbury Street at around 6 a.m. She'd been horrifically mutilated, and the killer had made off with one of her internal organs, which was indeed her womb. We now come to what was called the double murders. Elizabeth Stride. She was murdered on the 30th of September 1888. The body of Elizabeth Stride was found at around 1 a.m. in Dupfields Yard, just off Burner Street. The fact that her throat had been cut, but the rest of her body had not been touched, led to speculation that her killer had indeed been interrupted. The body of Catherine Eddowes was found in Mitre Square in the City of London at 1:45 a.m, again on the 30th of September 1888. This time, the savagery had increased, with the killer targeting his victim's face and going off with her uterus and her left kidney. Again, internal organs removed. But our next murder is the murder that did cause a lot of upset. Mary Kelly, murdered on the 9th of November 1888. The body of Mary Kelly was found in her room in Miller's Court, just off Dorset Street, at around 10:45 a.m. She'd been virtually skinned to the bone. Many experts believe that she was Jack the Ripper's final victim. However, some people disagree. In July 1888, Police Constable Walter Andrews discovered the body of prostitute Alice Mackenzie in a dark thoroughfare off Whitechapel called Castle Alley. The discovery prompted speculation that Jack the Ripper had returned. Frances Coles, murdered 13th of February 1891. The body of Frances Coles was found beneath a dark railway arch in Swallow Gardens. A few days later, the police charged a sailor named James Thomas Sadler with her murder, leading to speculation that Jack the Ripper had indeed been caught. We shall never ever know.
Thank you, Simon, for that fantastic overview of the Jack the Ripper case. Before we take a look at the theories behind who Jack the Ripper was, I just want to give a quick shout out to my patron of the day. And today, my patron of the day is Josh W. Josh, thank you so much for being a patron. Thank you to all my patrons. If you would like to become a patron, there's lots of bonus content and all sorts of great stuff over there for as little as £1 a month. Then please head over to the Patreon. Okay, the theories behind who Jack the Ripper may have been.
The first theory is actually not a man at all. Jill the Ripper, or Mary Piercy. So from the very beginning of the case, it was thrown around that a woman may have been responsible for these murders. Inspector Aberline questioned the possibility at great length after Mary Kelly's murder, and apparently there was a witness that spotted a woman wearing a piece of Mary's clothing, her shawl, and she witnessed this shortly after Mary's murder. So maybe we've got it wrong this whole time. Maybe it wasn't Jack the Ripper, perhaps it was Jill the Ripper. There was a book in 1939 titled Jack the Ripper, A New Theory, which argued heavily that a woman was the killer, perhaps even a mad midwife. A midwife would have reason to be walking the streets at any given hour, considering women can give birth at any given hour. This would not create much suspicion at all, even if the midwife was covered in blood, because again, going into labour can be a bloody affair. Not only that, being a midwife would mean that they would have an incredible amount of anatomical knowledge. And I mean, let's not forget, one of the victims' womb was removed. Mary Piercy, the lady in question, was convicted and executed for savagely murdering a woman and her child in 1890. Was Mary Piercy also responsible for murdering the 5 prostitutes? Was Jack the Ripper, in fact, H.H. Holmes, an American serial killer who confessed to 27 murders but is thought to have killed 200 more in his murder castle? I've done a full video on H.H. Holmes. Why don't you go check it out to get a full breakdown of his case. But was this man also Jack the Ripper? Well, Jeff Mudgett, a lawyer and former commander in the US Naval Reserve, claims that he was. Why would this man think that? Well, this man is H.H. Holmes' great-great-grandson, and he has inherited H.H. Holmes' diary. He claims his great-great-grandfather detailed the fact that he participated in the murder and mutilation of numerous prostitutes in London around the time of the Jack the Ripper murders. Now, this is as far as this theory goes, but I mean, if you think of it as being written evidence, then that is pretty solid. However, it could also be the case that H.H. Holmes heard of these Jack the Ripper murders and just wanted to take the sick glory for himself. The last person we're going to look at today is Robert Mann. Now, in 2009, a British historian, May Trow, using modern forensic and psychological profiling techniques, revealed that he believed he had finally found out who was Jack the Ripper. Robert Mann, someone that worked at Whitechapel Mortuary, where the victims were brought in and examined. This would explain how Jack the Ripper had anatomical knowledge working in a mortuary. And also, modern-day criminologists claim that they believe Jack the Ripper probably had low socioeconomic status as well as probably a hard upbringing. And it's believed that Robert Mann grew up in a very, very poor household and did not have a very high socioeconomic status at all. Also, it was noted in the investigation of Jack the Ripper's first victim that, weirdly, Robert Mann unnecessarily removed the clothing of the first victim whilst she was at the morgue. Now, May Trow claims that this is concrete evidence that Robert was simply admiring his own work. So was Robert Mann Jack the Ripper?
Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I've changed up my style a little bit. I'm going to be doing more, pictures and videos overlaid over the content. So if you enjoyed that more, please do let me know down below. Thank you so much to Simon and the guys over at Into the Darkness for this collaboration. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I've collaborated on their channel. They do top 5 scariest ghost compilations, and I lent my voice to that. So go and check that out. Go and check out their channel. They're great guys and they make great content. Like I said before, if you want to become a patron, it's a great way to support me. I'd really appreciate it, but you don't have to. The main thing is you come back, you subscribe, and you hit that like button. And comment down below, what do you think? Who do you think Jack the Ripper was? I would love to know. Thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate you, and I'll see you very soon. Sweet one. Geese.